An entitled mom demanded I give up my airplane seat because she wanted to sit next to her son. I think I've officially had my first real, entitled parent, encounter, and I'm still a mix of shocked, annoyed, and, honestly, kind of impressed at the audacity. So here's the deal, I, 29F, was flying cross-country last week for work. My company had booked me on a pretty full flight from LAX to JFK. It was one of those 5.5-hour hauls where you just pray for a quiet seatmate and some decent legroom. Now, because I travel for work fairly often, I've gotten into the habit of booking my seats early. I am that guy who will refresh the seat map like it's Ticketmaster until I get something tolerable. On this flight, I managed to snag an aisle seat in row 10, which was perfect. Not too close to the bathroom, not at the very back, easy access to stretch my legs. It was my little slice of airplane heaven. I even paid a little extra for it, since the airline charges for preferred seating. Not first-class money, but still, I shelled out about $65 for that specific seat. Boarding was uneventful at first. People shuffled in, stowed bags, and did that awkward "sorry, excuse me" dance as they squeezed into rows. I got settled, headphones ready, Kindle out, feeling pretty smug about my aisle spot. That's when they arrived. A woman, probably mid-30s, carrying a huge tote bag, with a boy trailing behind her. The boy looked maybe 10 or 11, nose buried in a Nintendo Switch. I didn't think much of it until the woman stopped right next to me and gave me that smile. You know the one, polite, but with an undercurrent of expectation. "Hi," she said. "So, I was wondering if you could switch seats with me so I can sit next to my son." I blinked, caught off guard. I asked, "Where's your seat?" She gestured a few rows back. "I'm in row 23, middle seat." I almost laughed, thinking she was joking. She wanted me to give up my aisle seat in row 10 for a middle seat in row 23. I said, as politely as I could, "Sorry, I actually paid extra for this seat. I'd really like to stay here." Her smile tightened. "But he's just a child. He needs his mother with him." I glanced at the boy. He looked fine. Totally absorbed in his game, not crying, not scared. Honestly, he didn't even look like he cared whether she sat with him or not. I said, "I get that, but he seems okay. And the flight attendants are here if he needs anything. Plus, he's not a toddler." She huffed. "He's only 11. He shouldn't be sitting by himself." At this point, people around us were starting to tune in. You know how it goes, the pre-flight drama is better than the in-flight movie. I tried again, "I'm sorry, but I'm not giving up this seat. I booked it specifically." That's when her tone shifted. The smile dropped, and she said, louder this time, "Wow. So you're seriously going to be that guy? You're really going to separate a mother from her child for a seat?" I could feel my ears burning. I hate confrontation, and now I was the villain of row 10. I muttered, "I'm not separating you. You bought seats apart, not me." She gasped, like I'd slapped her. "Excuse me. How dare you speak to me like that? I didn't choose to sit apart. The airline messed up our booking." Now, maybe that was true, but, also, that's not my fault. I said, "I understand you're frustrated, but again, this isn't something I can fix. You'll need to talk to the gate agent or a flight attendant." Cue more huffing. She stomped down the aisle toward row 23, dragging her tote, muttering something about selfish people. I exhaled, thinking it was over. Spoiler, it wasn't. A few minutes later, as boarding wrapped up, the entitled mom came back with a flight attendant in tow. The flight attendant, leaned down to me and said, "Sir, this passenger is asking if you'd be willing to switch so she can sit with her son." I repeated, "I paid for this seat. I'd prefer to keep it." The FA nodded, thank God, and said, that's absolutely you're right. We don't require passengers to switch seats if they don't want to. Entitled Mom's eyes went wide, like she couldn't believe the FA wasn't forcing me. She said, but he's a minor. You expect me to sit 20 rows away from my child? The FA calmly said, he's 11, ma'am. He'll be fine. We'll keep an eye on him if needed. The boy, bless his soul, piped up without looking up from his switch. He said, Mom, it's fine. I don't care. I nearly bit my tongue to keep from laughing. The FA asked, would you like me to see if anyone in row 23 would be willing to switch with you? The mom snapped, no. I want him to switch, pointing directly at me like I was some kind of hostage. The FA straightened, clearly done with this nonsense, and said, Ma'am, that's not going to happen. Please take your seat so we can depart on time. She stomped back, muttering something about heartless people and what's wrong with society. The flight itself was fine. Kid was quiet, Mom glared at me every time she walked past, but whatever. I watched a movie, ate my pretzels, and pretended I wasn't secretly vibrating with secondhand rage. But the kicker came when we landed. As we stood up to deplane, the mom actually turned to me and said, loud enough for half the row to hear. I hope you're happy, making a child sit without his mother for 6 hours. People like you shouldn't be allowed to fly. And I, running on 5 hours of recycled airplane air and sheer spite, looked her dead in the eye and said, your son handled it better than you did. The guy across the aisle snorted so hard he choked on his gum. The mom's face turned bright red, and she practically dragged her kid off the plane without another word. Meanwhile, the boy gave me a quick, almost conspiratorial grin, like he knew his mom had made this way bigger than it needed to be. Walking off the plane, I kept replaying the whole thing in my head. Part of me wondered if I should have just given in to avoid the scene, but honestly, no. I paid for that seat. I wasn't rude. I just held my ground. And seeing how many other passengers clearly thought she was being unreasonable actually made me feel a lot better. And I have to admit, ending the flight with one perfect clapback almost made up for the 6 hours of dirty looks. Maybe I didn't make a new friend on that flight, but I definitely learned one thing: sometimes standing your ground isn't just about keeping your seat. It's about not letting someone else rewrite the rules of common sense to suit themselves. And honestly, I'm glad I didn't move. Because now I've got this story to tell, and the best part is, I know for a fact I wasn't the only one who thought she was out of line. Am I really the bad guy here? I stuck to the seat I paid for, but she made me feel like I'd committed some crime against motherhood.